All right, so it is 1 o'clock and we're going to get started on today's webinar. I see many people are joining. So again, my name is Carrie Molkowski. I'm going to be your moderator for today. I am the National Programs Senior Manager here at FAIR. I am not one of these lovely ladies that you see on your screen. These are our presenters and I'll be introducing them shortly. So just kind of before I dig into my standard housekeeping introduction, I just want to first acknowledge these challenging days that we have faced and that we are continuing to face, especially as a food allergy community. And just let kind of on behalf of FAIR, we as an organization and, all of our constituents and these expert presenters we have here with us today, we're all here for you. If not, more and more committed to supporting you and your needs, than ever before. So just wanted to first put that out there. Which kind of brings me to today. So as we all know, social life is a little upside down at the moment, but that does not mean that we can't still connect and socialize, maybe virtually. I know I've seen like virtual play dates and dance parties and cooking classes and even happy hours with friends. And also B, that we can't look forward to the future, to the return of some quote unquote normal social living, actually in person. So with that said, we have these two amazing speakers with us today, and they are both going to explore ways that, you can conquer some of the challenges of socializing, and dating, as someone that maybe has food allergies. So just to let you know, we are going to record this presentation and we'll post it on the FAIR website in about a week, 7 to 10 days. But for maintaining a quality recording, all of the attendees are going to be muted. However, if you're having any technical difficulties, you can use the questions and the chat features in the GoToWebinar toolbar that you see on the right-hand side of your screen. And I will reiterate that there have been some problems with people utilizing software and platforms like this over the past few weeks, just because the amount of people hopping on here has been greater than usual. So I hate to put it out there, but I just say in advance, if anything does happen, we'll be patient, if the presenter needs to hop back on. But if anything happens, we'll work with these ladies to, reschedule or pre-record so that you have this information. Just to let you know, we're also on Twitter and we're live chatting. So I encourage you guys to join us in conversation during this broadcast. You can follow us at the handle Food Allergy and #FAIR webinar. And then lastly, at the end of the webinar, we'll take some questions. So feel free to shoot them to us during the webinar or jot them down and we'll ask our speakers at the end. So let me get into it. With us today, we have Noreen Okarter. She is the Certified Health and Integrative Nutrition Coach. Noreen helps people with food allergies and autoimmune diseases make safe and healthy choices confidently. Based in New York City, Noreen works with clients remotely and in various countries, empowering them through all aspects of life, including school, career, and relationships, so that they can live life to the fullest. Up next, we have Amanda Orlando. Amanda is the Toronto-based author of 2 food allergy-aware cookbooks, the latest of which is Everyone's Welcome. Please do also visit her blog, Everyday Allergen Free, where she writes about the realities of life with allergies and shares many of her recipes. So I'm so happy to have these women here with us today, and we'll go ahead and pass it off to Noreen to get us started.
Well, hello, everyone. My name is Noreen, and I'm really happy to be on this webinar with you talking about how to have an amazing social life with food allergies. Amanda and I have a great webinar planned for you, so let's dive in. We can go to the next slide. Your social life matters. And I'm sure you've all heard of some facts and figures about how a great social life will help you. But just to remind you, people with active social lives, they live longer, they have stronger physical health, so they're able to fight off the colds or flus or even what's going on right now with coronavirus, and they also have stronger mental health. But if we go on to the next slide, we'll see that your social life matters especially now. And what you want to be doing is as you go through your social life, really just make sure that you're investing time in people and experiences that really just make you feel good. But with coronavirus, we're trying to keep our immunity strong to prevent us from getting the disease, of course. So having strong social connections is one way of doing that. So if you've had a recent phone call or FaceTime call that made you feel better afterwards, then congratulate yourself, because you've just boosted your immunity system, and you've boosted the immunity system of the person you just spoke to. So one of the biggest lessons that we're learning right now is how much physical interactions mean to us. If you go into the next slide. So as we're quarantined in our homes, let's really use this time as best as possible to come out better, fitter, happier. Every positive adjective, add an ER to the end of it, and that's how we want to come out of it. And so as we work to build up our food allergy confidence, let's just do three things. Let's, number one, just learn how to be better prepared, learn what your social comfort level is, and also learn how we can have more fun. I mean, we all want to have fun, right? I know you guys would be saying yes if you guys weren't muted. So yeah, so we want to build our food allergy confidence. So, all right, let's do this. Oh, you can move to the next slide. So who am I? My name is Noreen, and I'm a certified health and life coach. I grew up with and still have multiple life-threatening food allergies to all tree nuts, peanuts, sesame, coconut, poppy seeds, wheat, and eggs. So, just a few things. And I live in New York City, so I'm at the epicenter of all that's going on right now. So keep your fingers crossed on you guys. Wish me luck. And I've been described as a petite person with a large social network. And I'm really proud that someone acknowledged the fact that I have a strong social network. That was a direct quote that someone gave me. Because if you go on to the next slide, while I have an amazing social life now, it wasn't always this way. I grew up with many periods of just feeling really socially isolated because I didn't know how to handle my food allergies. And I just felt like no one would understand, no one understood. And also I didn't know how to take the proper precautions. But now I handle my food allergies in social settings with complete confidence. And that's because I've gotten to the bottom of the steps that we'll talk about today. We can move on to the next slide. So one of the best things that we can do to socialize with food allergies is to be prepared. And we can really use this time while we're quarantined to do exactly that. So while you guys after you guys watch some Netflix and, decompress a little bit, just think about what are your favorite allergen-free foods that you just love, that you think are so delicious. Okay, so identify those three foods, and then great. Learn how to cook them. Also learn how to package them and transport them. And you have great resources that you guys can use. So there are lots of recipes, and if you don't know, our other panelist, Amanda, who you'll be hearing from later, she has a cooking YouTube show, so you can learn some tips there. But really, when you tap into the foods that you really love to eat, that are delicious and they do not have your allergens, that sense of deprivation or that sense of lack really goes away. Another thing that you want to do also while you're sitting at home is to think about how do you want to socialize better with the people in your life? Like, what are some activities that you've been meaning to do and longing to do that maybe you haven't because you felt that you were maybe like, it seemed a little bit daunting to you given your food allergies? Well, this is the perfect time to think about what your game plan is in terms of how you can include yourself in those activities and also have fun. And also, of course, include yourself in the most safe way possible. But also while you're home, think about, okay, like what's my weekly or daily schedule like? Because when we get back out there to the real world, when this whole coronavirus thing has gone away, things will get back to normal, and we're going to get back into our normal routine. And so we need to think about what are some blind spots that we had before. Like, what are some areas that, like, maybe you weren't really prepared for when it came to certain events or certain places, and then how can you now create some type of either schedule or way of being that aligns with the daily and weekly activities that you have to do in your everyday life. So maybe it's that, for example, you always have back-to-back meetings on Tuesday, and you notice that you never include a snack in your purse or in your briefcase. So this is a perfect time to think about how you need to plan for that. Another thing that you can do to be better prepared is to have the critical conversations. So who do you need to have a conversation with about your food allergies? And maybe it's someone that, a coworker who you're not so friendly with. Maybe it's someone who's really close to you, like your grandma, whoever it is. But this is the time when we're all home, nobody's going out. Pick up the phone, call them, first check in on them and ask them how they're doing. But then just slip in a, by the way, I've been meaning to have a conversation with you about my food allergies, because I feel like this is a good time for us to kind of like recalibrate our relationship and really talk about things. And of course, you can say that in your own kind of way, but use this time to have those critical conversations. And lastly, when it comes to being prepared, think of your emergency plan of action. A lot of you, I know that if you're a parent or if you're a child, you're in school, you do have that emergency plan of action. That's great. But if you're an adult, you still need to have one too. Who is not of school age anymore, although I like to think I look it, I still have an emergency plan of action that I communicate to family members and to close friends. So move on to the next slide. And this, of course, goes without saying, but carry your EpiPen everywhere, every day, every moment. And if anyone tells you that you're not cool because you carry on your EpiPen, congratulations, you just got rid of one bad friend. So we can go to the next slide. Okay, so that was all about being prepared. So now we can talk about how to learn what your social comfort levels are. So this is particularly important because sometimes we don't go to places or engage in certain activities because we feel like there's an emotional barrier. And sometimes there's a physical barrier too. Like I cannot go to a Chinese restaurant because it's loaded with nuts there and that will not work well for me. Sometimes there is an emotional barrier as well. So you want to think about what are like the places or activities where you feel like really comfortable, and just jot down what are the attributes of like why you feel comfortable in those certain settings or situations. Like maybe it's because there are people there who do understand what your food allergies are, or there's a restaurant who's so accommodating. But also take inventory of what are the places or situations where you do not feel comfortable. And like these are like your red flags. And so when you're working with people, or when you're also thinking about making decisions, do I want to go out to this place, do I not? You can kind of have like a very tangible list of criteria that you can use later that'll make you understand, okay, this place is safe and comfortable for me, and this is where it's not. You also want to think about what are your boundaries when it comes to your food allergens. So this is something that I worked very critically with my allergist with, and I'm so happy that I put in the time to do that. There were moments where literally I would see a nut from across the room and I would like freaking panic. Like I would just go into panic mode and like I almost like have panic attacks. And by working with my allergist, one of the things that I learned is that if I see a nut from across the room, I'm fine. Now, there's a certain distance in which like maybe it can be risky, but that's a conversation that you want to have with your allergist, so that when you walk into a social situation where maybe you don't know where your allergen is going to be, if you know what your boundaries are, and if you're in a setting where your boundaries are not violated in any way, you can calm down. And when you calm down, you're going to engage people better. You're going to have a better social life. The next thing you also want to do is think about who respects my comfort level with my food allergens and who does not. So for the people that do respect your comfort level with your allergens, like the allergens that are in your physical environment and people like are handling them well, please send them a thank you note, or better yet, nobody's going anywhere. Get on the phone with them and say, thank you so much for handling my food allergies so well. I really just want to express my gratitude to you. And for the people who don't handle the food allergies so well, like I had an instance where someone was like passing sesame bread like right in front of my nose, and that was really freaked me out. Schedule a conversation with them. You know, again, hey, just checking in, seeing how you're doing. Are you okay? Or is this whole coronavirus thing, how are you managing? Great. After that, then, by the way, you know, when we go out, I would love it if any one of my allergens is on the table, could you actually not pass it in front of my face? Could you find another way of passing the sesame bread? So those are the type of conversations that we definitely want to have. If not now, definitely in the future. Lastly, think about how are you going to stand up for yourself when your comfort level has been crossed, when you feel like your boundaries have been violated. So one of the things that I've really had to do is learn what an appropriate level of response is, because there are some times, I will admit this, I would just freak out and be like, oh my gosh, you just passed me the nut and I can't take it. And that happens, especially if we just, get really sick with our food allergens. But then I kind of have to draft a little, I had to write out a card of how I could really articulate in a calm way the way that in which I wanted to stand up for myself when I feel like my boundaries were violated. So comfort level is very important. If you go to the next slide. Just remember that you guys are in the driver's seat. You are in the driver's seat. I cannot emphasize this enough. There's so many times when I felt like I had to conform to what was going on around me. And I got really comfortable with the principle of fitting out, which is different than fitting in. When you fit out, you do what you need to do in order to take care of yourself, but you still have a shining presence anyways. There are going to be times when you can't do everything else that everyone else, things that everyone else is doing, and that's okay. That really is. So just do what you need to do. Okay, we'll go to the next slide. And the last part of having a wonderful social life, which I would tell to anyone, whether they had food allergies or not, is to have more fun. Yes, have more fun. And the way to do that, when it pertains to our social connections, is to be interested and to be interesting. So how does one be interested? So we want to convey to other people that, that we like them. I mean, granted, if we do like them, we want to convey to people that, we want to form that social connection with them. So how do you do that? Ask them questions. Hey, where are you from? Oh, Amanda, you're from Toronto? That's so interesting. You like Toronto? How many years have you lived there? And really take interest in getting to know that person. One thing that I love to do is that I introduce myself to one new person a day. I literally challenge myself to do that because as a person who used to be a little bit socially shy and dare I say a little awkward, it's okay. I now have this new thing that I do is that I just go and introduce myself to someone. And gosh, I have made so many friends. Like, I think I've made too many friends. Like, I get too many texts a day, and I'm not bragging about that. I'm just saying, like, it's fact, because I've really made a concerted effort to expand my social network. Also, one thing you want to do is just to develop really great eye contact with people. That says that you're interested. And of course, smile, smile, smile. I can't say that enough. When you smile with your face, that's really great. As Tyra Banks in America's Next Top Model says, smile with your eyes. That's how you convey that you're interested. To be interesting, you also want to just learn something new, which I'm sure we're all doing, like we're doing on this training. Congratulations. But really importantly, have hobbies. Have hobbies that really get you fired up and pumped up every day that you love doing. Be your unique self. You guys are all wonderful in your unique way. You don't have to fit in, like I was saying before, to be cool. If you can't eat dairy, that does not make you less cool. You're still awesome. Like, literally say to yourself right now, I am awesome. Okay, great. Also, just become a really good storyteller. People gravitate to people who make them feel good. And one way of doing that is to tell, like, really interesting stories. And it's not what you say, it's also how you say it. So have more fun. If you go to the next slide, I just want to remind you guys that there are so many fun things to do that do not involve food at all. And I'm sure a lot of you guys are discovering it right now. I mean, you're probably dancing on TikTok. You're probably like discovering a really cool book. You're probably, getting on Zoom with your friends and just like talking about really interesting stuff. There's so many things that do not involve food or drinks by any means. So explore those, start talking about them, and start interacting with people who like those fun activities too. Go to the next slide. So get out there. Get out there. There's one thing that I can encourage you guys to do is to get out there, but to get out there safely. And to get out there safely and confidently. Like, you guys are so cool. You guys are awesome. And if anyone tells you otherwise, you just say, I was listening to this girl, Noreen, on a WebEx, and she said I was cool. Okay? So I don't want to hear it. Okay. So if you go to the next slide. So thanks for listening to me talk about how to socialize with food allergies. I hope that this is really helpful. And I hope that if you guys have any questions, just please keep in touch. You can reach me on the gram. I'm at FoodSitch. I have a FoodSitch page. And lastly, if email is your jam, you can email me. But thanks so much, guys. I'm going to pass it over to the lovely Amanda.
Hey. Hi. Okay, that was awesome. I feel like I learned a few things. That was good. Thank you. My name is Amanda. I have way too much text on this slide. Wow. But that's okay. So I'm a food allergy person. Lived with food allergies my whole life. I'm allergic to peanuts, nuts, dairy, soy protein, most legumes. The list was longer when I was a kid, but I was really fortunate that I grew out of some of my allergens. Still hoping for the rest, but who knows what's going to happen? Probably not. I blog about living with food allergies, and I recently started a YouTube channel, and I'm a food allergy cookbook author. So very much hoping to advocate for people within the food allergy community and help us gain some presence and recognition. So I'm going to talk to you about dating. I love giving this talk. It is so much fun because I am an absolutely strange person and just happen to get myself into a lot of unfortunate situations that are interesting to recall in hindsight, not so much at the time. So first, I'll start with an embarrassing story about when I first started dating my now husband. I was in university. I think it was third year of university. I went to university in Toronto. And we had been on maybe 2 or 3 dates, and we had been to restaurants both times. This time we were at a coffee shop. And I guess like my habit was always that I didn't want to tell anyone about my food allergy because I was managing it, and like I didn't need help, I didn't want anyone interfering, like I just had it on lock for myself. That was my attitude at the time. Keep in mind I was like 19 or 20 years old, and things have changed a little bit since then. Um, so we went for this coffee date. I had a black coffee at Starbucks, my usual order. He had like obviously something with dairy in it. And then afterwards, he was walking me to class, and I was like, cool, cool, this is going great. I think he's gonna kiss me. I think he's gonna try to kiss me. Man, what do I do? Like, I'm like freaking out in my head. So we arrive at the class, and this class had like 400 people in it. So we're standing in front of like 400 people, and he leans in to kiss me, and I just ducked and like went under his arm and like ran behind him, and I ran away. And then I turned behind me and I was like, sorry, I have food allergies. Which if you don't know anyone who has food allergies, it's like, what does that mean and how does that relate to this situation? I could see his face. He was like, what? And I just ran away. And it was completely bizarre. Like, but that was that is my personality. It was a very weird thing to do. So then of course he texted me and he was like, what just happened? Like, why didn't you want to kiss me? And then obviously I had to open up. Yeah, this is why I didn't kiss you, and I should have told you before, but I didn't, which was silly. And his takeaway from it was, just tell me. Like, why wouldn't you have just told me? We could have avoided this whole weird situation. I didn't have to have milk in my coffee. Like, so many things could have been set in motion earlier if I had have just been upfront and explained my situation. And he obviously cared, right? And he wanted to like not have that happen. So the thing I learned from that was really just always be upfront about it. There's no need to hide the fact that you have allergies. I did that for far too long, and I don't think it ever served me well. And as my husband always says, even now, he's like, just own it. Just own it. This is a part of you. There is no need to ever hide it. And if someone else can't deal with it, then that's really their problem. It's not something for me to ever feel bad about. So I'm 29 now, so I was kind of like, I think of my generation of kids with food allergies as a little bit of, trial and error. We didn't really know a lot, so a lot of the time, the attitude was like, oh, try it and see what happens. Obviously not to things that I knew I was allergic to, but to new foods and stuff. It was very much a trial and error type of generation. And my parents and I didn't really talk about food allergy from an emotional standpoint or anxiety. We definitely never talked about it in regards to dating. I think we just never really like connected the dots that there was such a strong emotional component to having food allergy. And my brother also has food allergy, and my mom has food allergy, all to different things. And they don't, well, neither of them have had the same history of having anaphylactic reactions that I've had. So I definitely carry a lot of anxiety with me about that. Whereas if you haven't had anaphylaxis, perhaps you don't have, the memories of it, or, whatever their reason, they don't really have anxiety about it. So we never really discussed food allergies and dating. But I ended up kind of doing my own research, because one day I was thinking about it in high school, and I was like, I wonder if someone ate something that I'm allergic to, could they kiss me? And then I kind of started researching from there. And then in the mid 2000s, so when I was a teenager, really unfortunate situation happened, and this girl passed away from that. And then I was like, okay, now I understand this. Now I know that is validated. I have to be really careful about that. I wish I could say I was more careful. I definitely had that kind of like, I'm a teen, I'm invincible attitude, but it's definitely something to be careful about, and really not worth taking the chance, especially if you're at a party. It's not the opportunity to try and see what happens, right? Like, it's definitely something to always be careful about. So as a teenager, I was, drama. I loved like I was really always a very independent person. I couldn't wait to move out to university. I moved out when I was 17. And just like I never wanted food allergy to stand in the way of doing all the things that I wanted to do and all of my experiences that I wanted to have. But my parents had some rules. So I grew up outside of Toronto, and they said, okay, you can stay in res, but it has to be an apartment style, which totally fine with me. And they wanted me to stay within Ontario, so within Toronto was my preference. So I was allowed to move out, but I was still in the same city. So there was still like a bit of comfort for my family. Um, but also I really had to grow out of this idea that I had to hide my food allergy. And that was something that was difficult, admittedly, for me to conquer. So when I was in high school, like, guys asked me out, I kind of always kind of dodged it a little bit. I didn't really know how to bring it up with them. And I had this attitude that if they knew there was something wrong with me, or if they knew that I had a disease, that maybe they wouldn't be interested, or maybe they would somehow be offended by it if we couldn't do the things that they were used to doing. I never really encountered anyone who had sort of a protective attitude towards it. And I did get bullied for my food allergies quite a bit throughout like childhood and high school. So I was kind of scarred from that. And I would say I definitely had a wall. And as soon as, anyone that I was seeing got too close, I kind of pushed them away. And then in 12th grade, I had, more of a steady boyfriend. We were dating for a few months. And I even tried to hide it from him. I didn't really want anyone to know too much. And I think that in hindsight is something that I would do differently because, it was really self-consciousness and fear. And I wasn't giving people the chance to show that they weren't going to judge me for it. And I think you have to give other people the opportunity to show you that they do want to take care of you and they do want to be there for you. So maybe don't assume the worst of people before you've actually given them a chance. That's a really important lesson that I took away from that. Later, when I went to university and I was dating, if I was dating someone, I had this rule that like, I'm going to keep a toothbrush at my place, or you have to have a toothbrush always available if you want to kiss me, because I know you're eating food from your cafeteria. I was actually in one of the few apartment style buildings in the whole campus. So I knew everyone else is eating cafeteria food and it's not safe for me at all. So if you want to hang out, if you want to kiss me, just brush your teeth first. And that always worked for me. I know everyone has kind of a different comfort level when it comes to like when the allergen was eaten, when the teeth are brushed, if something is drank, everyone has their own comfort level, but that was the one for me. And if they ate nuts or peanuts that day, then I just wasn't going to kiss them because that makes me really uncomfortable. So that was a rule. And any guy that I dated always respected that rule. Like there was never any argument about that, which was awesome. And I also had, I guess, the attitude that like I would choose a restaurant. So I did generally avoid going to restaurants earlier on in my dating life, which was kind of easier when you're either in high school or if you're in university, because so much of your life just takes place around like dorms or like common rooms or parties and things like that. So restaurants weren't really an obstacle for me at that point. But then once I got older and I was in my 20s, then it started to become more of an obstacle, because then when you're dating someone more seriously, they probably want you to come over and meet their family. They probably want to take you out to dinner. Like all of these other kind of social situations arise. And then I always would just say, okay, I'm good to go, but I just want to pick a restaurant that I'm comfortable with. Or if I'm eating at your family's place, I want to go early so that I'm there when the food is being made. And then I can be involved in the process. Like I'm happy to help. I'm happy to bring something, but that way I can at least like see what's happening. And also it's the opportunity to explain to them what my allergies are and the severity, and, in a hands-on way, that it doesn't feel like I'm saying, oh, I can't have that. I can't have that. It's more like, okay, let's do it this way. And like, let's work around it together. So it's adding more of a layer of positivity to it, I think. I did learn some lessons when I first moved to university the hard way. I think like, university party culture is something that you are thrown into if you want to be there. And I'm like an introverted extrovert. I love to be around other people, but I also like to have my space in a crowd. Like I'm not the person that's going to be the life of the party, but like I need to be around other people. So I was always ending up like if there was a party, I was like, I want to go. I want to be there. I don't want to be at home. But as soon as my bank of energy was done, I was gone because that's how I am. And there were some scary encounters. You know, there are people who don't understand personal boundaries and would try to kiss me, and I wasn't okay with it, obviously for other reasons. But there's the added component of food allergy. And there was a time when this guy was drinking a White Russian, and that has milk in it, and came over and kissed me. I didn't want the kiss at all, and he was drinking milk. And that was infuriating, infuriating. And I had to learn how to be a lot tougher with people. And I give myself a little bit of wiggle room because I think, okay, I was 17, this is a new situation for me. But after that, I learned that I had to be so much tougher on my personal space. And like, if not only if I didn't want that situation to happen, but also the allergy component of it, you just have to not worry about offending people in situations like that. I think I had been too nice about it. So I definitely learned some lessons very quickly, very quickly. And I hope that passing on this wisdom to you allows you to have the foresight to protect yourself in those kind of situations too. Can we go to the next slide? So one thing that I really came to value when dating was to find a partner who really cares. And when I think about like the person I'm in a relationship with, it's you're a team and you're in this together. And now my husband and I, like the way that I manage my allergies, he's also there. He's my second set of eyes. And he has empathy, not sympathy. So he imagines what it's like to be in my shoes and how that might affect me, as opposed to saying, oh, I feel so bad for you. Because the one thing that I never wanted was a partner who says, oh, I feel bad for you that you can't do this. I feel bad for you. And that's the number one thing that people say when they find out I have allergies. And it's always been the thing that just pisses me off so much, because there's nothing to feel bad for me about. You know, there's so many other like amazing things in life. And I'm not sitting around feeling sorry for myself. So I don't want anyone else to. That to me is like a no-go. So I think it was always really important for me to find a partner who says like, we're in this together. And if you need my help, I'm here for you. And if you're having anxiety, then I'm going to hold your hand. And that's always been really, really important to me. And so the guy whose kiss I dodged, we ended up dating for 8 years and then got married. So that worked out really well. And, you know, he's very confident and resourceful. And really like, I feel like leadership qualities, like someone who is not afraid to stand out. And those are things that as people with food allergies, it's important for us to have too. Like be confident in yourself, be resourceful. It's all the things that Noreen was saying. It's like build those building blocks to make yourself a stronger person, because you can do this even when it feels like it's a lot. One question that I always had when I would first start dating someone, it's like my food allergy opening line. It's like, oh, are you an olive oil house or a butter house? Because it's very different. So I grew up in a Mediterranean family, and I don't even think my parents ever bought butter, but we were just like very much olive oil. And so it was, if I met someone who was like from a different culture and they were like, oh yeah, like we cook everything in butter, I'd be like, okay, this is an obstacle we're going to have to navigate together. And that was kind of like how I would open the conversation, and then be like, oh, I'm really into food, and like I love cooking, and like we can cook together, and these are my food allergies, and like this is why I asked you that. And it's kind of like my way of like getting the conversation started. So, but find a way to bring the conversation up, you know, in a way that suits you and your interests and makes it easy for you to just like bring it into natural conversation. How am I doing for time? Okay, I'm going to hurry it up a little bit. So another really important thing about dating is that you're always advocating for yourself. And when I was talking about having a partner who has empathy and confidence about you and your food allergies, someone who's not embarrassed of the fact that you have a disease or shy about it when it comes to taking you to meet their family and to meet their friends. I've dated people who they're very confident when it comes to being just the two of us, but as soon as we're in a social situation, they become really weird about it. And to me, that's like a false sense of confidence then, because if they're not able, if they leave you hanging to advocate for yourself around all of their close friends and family, it's unfair. I think it's an uncomfortable situation, or not uncomfortable, but perhaps a bit of a nerve-wracking situation for anyone to meet your partner's close friends or parents or whoever. And if they leave you hanging to just advocate for yourself and they're not there supporting you, then that to me is a bit of a red flag. I feel like they should always be standing behind you, and in the situations where they're most comfortable, taking the opportunity to lessen it for you, lessen the stress for you, and tell their friends ahead of time, tell their parents ahead of time, so that it's not this shocker when you show up and then suddenly you have to do it all yourself. And I have dated people who've been there when others are blatantly bullying me for my food allergies in high school, and just put their head down as though they had no idea that it was even happening. And it's disgusting behavior, quite honestly. If you're witnessing your partner be bullied, or if you're supporting it, it's just terrible. But those experiences taught me that this is not okay. And so this is something to look for going forward. Is that person only confident around me, or are they also able to advocate around their friends and stand up for me and say, no, that's not okay. Like, you can't, this is a disease. This is a serious thing. This is not her being finicky or precious, right? So if they're making you feel bad about yourself in any way in regards to your food allergy, huge, huge red flag for sure. Okay, I'm going to throw a quick story, and then I feel if hopefully I'm doing okay for time. So the same person who stood by while others were bullying me for my food allergy. At that point, I think I was 16 or 17 maybe, and I was still in the mood of like, I should hide my food allergy around people, because I had, bad experiences. And so we went for lunch, and where I grew up, there's like tons of sushi restaurants, big part of our local culture. But I always had the ones that I was comfortable going to. And he wanted to go to a different one. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to make this work. All right, I'll just order what I'm comfortable ordering. So we go to the restaurant, and the server didn't speak any English. So I was like, oh man, this is already, the ones that I usually go to, they speak some English. So I'm able to navigate. And then he proceeded to order like all of these things off the menu, and it was all you can eat sushi. So he ordered like everything. And then I couldn't communicate my allergies to the server. And I was like, oh my God, like this is going horribly. And this is like maybe our second date. Okay. It's going horribly already in my mind. And of course I'm nervous too, because like I'm a teenager on a date. Like this is already kind of, intimidating. And then all this food arrives, and I was thinking, oh my God, like what am I going to do with this? Like it's all you can eat sushi, so you have to pay extra for all the things that you don't eat. So I was like, oh my God, I don't want to like leave all this uneaten food. Like I'm freaking out. So anyways, I kind of like ate my salmon sashimi that I knew I could have, and I was like, all right, cool. So I ate all of that. There's still a table full of food. What am I going to do? He gets up to go to the washroom, and I just started like sushi in the napkin under my plate, sushi in a napkin in my purse, sushi in a napkin like under the tablecloth, under the table, hiding. Like I was like, I gotta get rid of this. Like I gotta move this stuff out so that it looks like I ate. And he came back, and like he had no idea. Like honestly, he had no idea. And then it was ridiculous. And I was thinking, oh my God, the last thing I need to happen now is for him to ask me to get something from my purse, because my purse is full of sushi and napkins. Like this is ridiculous. So I mean, that's just the kind of person that I am. So anyways, I learned that that's probably not the best thing to do. I really should have just said something up front, but always be upfront, or else you will end up with a purse full of fish, and you're not going to be very happy about it. So I hope that this has been, that my experiences have been insightful or educational for you. We can go to the next slide. And okay, I already talked about all of this, but I'm just going to go over it briefly, the idea of like how you manage your allergies as a couple. Um, every couple makes their own rules because everyone grows up with their own comfort level. So as I mentioned earlier, my brother and my mom have food allergies, and we all are actually allergic to different things. So in my house, we had pretty much actually all of our allergens present, except peanuts, just because all of us are allergic to peanuts, so we didn't have peanuts. But we did have like nuts in our home. We had dairy in our home. And so we had processes to like manage that and to be considerate of one another so that we were never putting each other at risk. But I grew up very comfortable being around those things just because it was like part of my upbringing, that like my brother would eat cheese or my dad would eat nuts or whatever. And so everyone has their own comfort level. But for me, it was whether or not I trust the person I'm dating. So just because I grew up in close proximity to it doesn't mean that I trust every person I've ever dated to eat it around me, because some of them aren't as respectful about the boundaries as others. Whereas my husband now, I am okay with him eating my allergens around me because I know that he knows how to do it safely. But he even has his own comfort level. He hates eating nuts in our home. Like, he just doesn't like it. I think it's too nerve-wracking for him, but that's something that he kind of came to on his own. And I was definitely, I gave him some leeway in the beginning to like figure out how to navigate it, because if you don't have someone in your life who has food allergies and then this is like thrown on your plate, I think that at first you don't really know what to do with it. So once he started like understood the severity and everything, then we kind of like came up with our own rules from there. And we have our routines. Like I don't want him to give up something that I'm allergic to because I know that he enjoys it, or I don't want him to miss out on his cultural foods. Like, he's Persian and most Persian food has stuff that I'm allergic to, but like, we'll make our own Persian food at home that is safe, or he'll get Persian food and just like, be clean about it and not allow my allergens to like be in our home in an unsafe way. And like, I'll take him out for ice cream and I'll just bring like a safe treat from myself. So we kind of have our own way of navigating, but I think it's something extremely important for you to establish with your partner and like what makes you both comfortable. We can go to the next slide. So please feel free to get in touch with me. I would love to chat anytime. I'm on YouTube. I'm actually working on a video right now about how my husband and I manage allergies in our relationship. So that one will be coming out in a couple weeks. But I have some cooking vids up and some like thoughts and pondering videos. I'm on Instagram, Facebook. You can email me. Happy to chat anytime. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thank you both. You guys are amazing. And just, Amanda, thanks so much for sharing all your personal stories and advice. And Noreen, like, those were some awesome tips, and great life experience that I was smiling the whole time you guys are presenting, because I just know that this information is going to be so beneficial for teens. I mean, you both are so honest and authentic. So I'm very grateful and appreciative. So with that said, we did get a couple questions. So I'm thinking this is one that maybe both of you could answer. Do you have any advice or just thoughts on like when exactly is a good time to tell someone about your food allergy? Is it that, that first date? Is it that first hangout just with a new friend from school? Does food have to be involved, or, does it matter? Is there, I know it's different for everyone, but is there a good rule of thumb or something that you guys would recommend when a good time would be to, disclose that information to someone new in your life?
Noreen, why don't you go first?
Yeah, sure. So for me, I personally try to take the most natural way of doing it. So I guess as soon as the topic of food comes up, that's when I generally tell that person about my food allergies. But I think it's not so much the what, it's really like the how. And it's one of the reasons that my company is called Food Stitch, is because like instead of when I was saying to people, like, I have a food allergy, like, I think for some horrible reason, the phrase food allergy, like, people like roll their eyes, or unfortunately. But I just started to say, so here's my food sitch. I've got I got allergies, blah, 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 and I think it like rolled off the tongue better, and people were like more accommodating. But I think definitely bring it up, like Amanda was saying, definitely be transparent about it. And for me personally, I just like, and when the topic of food comes up.
For me, I feel I totally agree. I think it's how you say it. And a lot of times, like if you're like talking to someone, like maybe you met them and you're like talking online or something, or like you're chatting before you actually go on a date, like that's like just like, really common now. I always took that opportunity to just be very honest also about like maybe like I tend to get hives a lot, so that's always kind of like a like something that I talk about, because like, oh man, I must have eaten something today, like I got a lot of hives. And then I would say that and be like, oh yeah, because I have all these food allergies, and like this is how it affects me and this is how it makes me feel. And like that was kind of how I usually ended up talking about it. But I think like it's okay to wait until the food situation comes up. Like it's okay to wait until they talk about like, oh, do you want to go out? And then you tell them then, or you, like if you're going out to do something that doesn't revolve around food, like it's okay to wait until this kind of natural moment occurs where they're like, oh, do you want to get popcorn? And then you're like, oh no, like, I think you'll find your natural moment, but you also can just bring it up like right at the beginning, like once you're getting to know someone and you feel like you have a connection, like there's nothing wrong with saying, oh, by the way, like I have food allergies and like this is what I'm dealing with. And if we're going to go out, like this is what I need from you, or this is, I'm going to choose the restaurant. But I think I usually wait until I have like a bit of a relationship with that person before I throw it out there. So it just feels more natural to me.
Wonderful, thank you. And I'm gonna ask a question that just came in. Actually, I'm gonna skip some of the other ones that I had come in before because it kind of backpacks off of this question, and it's actually a sign of the times. And I know, Amanda, you met your husband years back, and Noreen, I won't put your relationship status on the spot, but because dating apps, they are the main form of dating nowadays, and so this person was just asking, like, is it like proper, or to bring your food allergy with somebody on the app that you just kind of been talking to, is it before the date, that maybe you want to put that out there just so the other person doesn't pick a date where you run into an issue, or I don't know if any of you could talk about just kind of the apps that are out there and dating on them with food allergies.
Amanda, do you want to go?
Sure. Yeah, I think like, my God, my headphones keep falling out. I think the same thing, like my answer would stay the same, because if you're meeting someone in real life, like you're getting to that point where like you're going to a restaurant or whatever, then I think that's the opportunity to be like, oh, I want to pick the restaurant because like this is my situation. And I would just treat it like whether you're on an app or whether you're just like messaging someone or texting someone, whatever, it's like you're communicating with another person. So like find the opportunity that feels right for you. Like no matter what the medium is, it's like if you're meeting up with someone, then that's the time to talk about it. Like I think my learning from when I was younger was like, don't wait to talk about it, because then it's going to end up being like an uncomfortable situation. And it almost made me look like I was being judgmental of the other person by not giving them the opportunity to be supportive of me and assuming that they wouldn't be. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that no matter what the medium, you do just want to bring it up and just be proactive about it. I think on dating apps, like I would recommend just let the other person get to know you first. Like you are more than just your food allergies, which is why I love Farrah's Contains Courage platform. Like there's so many awesome things to us besides our food allergies. So let the other person get to know the other amazing, attributes about you. And then when the time comes up for a date, that's when, that's if you're, then we get into a little bit of gender dynamics here, but if you're like maybe a female, it's totally great just to say, here's my food stitch, I'm allergic to sesame, but then also provide a solution. So state the problem, provide a solution. So, by the way, I'm using the word problem usually. Your food allergies are not a problem. They're just a part of you. But you can just say, I can't eat this, but here's where I can eat. And then give like a list of cuisines that you are comfortable with, or recommend a restaurant. Here's a restaurant that I'd really like to go to because of my food allergies. They always take care of me. Does that work for you? I always say that in general, like dating with food allergies is a great way to weed out people. It's like great. Like you just cut to the chase so much sooner.
True.
Wonderful. Thank you both. So I'm going to jump to a topic that a couple attendees have asked about, and that's around the whole drinking alcohol in parties and bars. And maybe not even a specific question, but if either of you could just, give any kind of tips or advice about, how do you stay on top of and manage your food allergies, if you're out at a party or obviously a bar where alcohol is being served.
I think is this more about like teenage years or like more later, like adult years, or does it matter? I don't know.
We will assume that everyone is 21 and able to drink legally and responsibly. But I think it's more like,
it's 19, so it's different.
That's it. Oh, yes. You're a little younger there. Probably young 20s, I'm thinking.
Okay,
College
life. So for me, like, I used to not be as careful, I guess. But I will say that if you have been drinking and suddenly you do start feeling symptoms, it is the most terrifying feeling because you are not able to think clearly and it is just horrible. So I learned to be a lot more careful. And also I want to plug a podcast that I did with Dan of May Contain, where we talked about very honest conversation about like drinking with food allergies when we were younger. So if anyone wants that, just like I can send you the link. But I found that as I got older, I started to realize like things behind the bar can be contaminated. Like gin usually has like nuts in it, and like Frangelico, and like there's all these alcohols that actually have things that I'm allergic to. And I just like started reacting a lot to alcohol and even to wine. Like wine, I came to learn, can have casein, it can have whey powder, like it can have all these things in it. And I didn't know because it doesn't have to be labeled. And so alcohol is tricky because the labeling restrictions are not the same as food. And it's very scary when you are drinking and suddenly symptoms come on. So I think it's good to find alcohols that or drinks that like are safe for you, like brands. So I tend to stick to like a beer from a company that I know I can have, or like a wine that I know I can have, or like a liquor or whatever. And then I just like stick to those safe things. And oftentimes like I'm not like the cool life of a party person, because I'm not the one who's just like openly taking a shot and like having a drink and like being blasé. Like it's not me, but that's okay. Like it's better to just be unwavering and be who you are, and people will respect you for that, honestly. So
definitely agree there. So in my personal situation, I was the life of the party. I was that person who just went out and had fun a lot. By the way, I was totally responsible. Like I never did anything, that was really bad. Like I'm personally just like a social butterfly. So here are my tips. Number one, always eat before you go out. Eat your own food before you go out. So you prep your body just in case like you accidentally have a little bit too much. At least like you're not going to be, you know, really inebriated and make a really silly judgment call. Secondly, like Amanda was saying, have your go-to drinks. And I would say this to anyone, whether they had food allergies or not. Like one of the things that I even work with some of my clients on, like as they're working towards their health goals, or like what are the alcoholic drinks that work best for me, and stick with those. And so that number one, they're not like gaining too much weight from like eating, you know, too much sugar in your drinks. And also you want to be, of course, food allergy safe. The other thing that I would say too is just like the buddy system is always really effective. Like I'm like in my 30s and I still have a buddy system, like even now. So I think that's really important. And just know that I would say enjoy the alcohol that you're drinking if you are drinking it. Like, I think one of the things that I will say, I don't know what it's like in Canada, but Americans, like, we tend to have this culture of binge drinking, and it really takes away from the experience of the alcohol. Like when you're sipping wine or whatever drink of your choice, take a sip, just enjoy it. Just enjoy it. And you'll find out that you're going to be less likely to make silly errors like eating something that has your allergen in it. So I would say just make sure that you are prepping beforehand, be prepared, like we talked about. Make sure that you're, I forgot my other tips. They were good, but so you want to do those. Sorry.
And one thing to add, it just occurred to me that I do like all the time is if you're out at a bar and like your friends have been drinking a lot and they're like, oh my God, like, come on, like have this shot. I just wait till everyone's throwing it back and I just throw it over my shoulder, honestly. Like, it doesn't even matter. Just like do what you have to do. And there's always, like people always say, don't take a drink that someone just handed to you because you don't know what's in it. But the extra layer is like, you don't know what's in that. Like there could be something in that you're allergic to. So don't feel like you have to be so polite about it. Like you can always just like thank the person and then like turn around and like put it on the counter or on the bar and walk away. Like you don't have to consume things if you don't feel safe consuming them. So like if someone comes up to you with like some weird shot and they're like, oh, I got this for you, take it. Like the number of shoulder shots that I've done, it's like sometimes you just do what feels right in the moment. And a lot of people don't notice, like, I don't know, that's something that I do.
Thank you. That's great advice, and I think goes back to what Noreen was saying, just about owning it and fitting out, and that is how you get out there safely and confidently. And I know we're at time, but can I ask one more question? So we had a question come in, and this person said that with her food allergy, she doesn't like to feel controlling. Do either of you have some tips on how to ask like a date that you're on to keep you safe without feeling like you're trying to control them or take over?
Yes. So I do. I know Amanda is a married woman. It's a lot of dating experience, but being out there these days, one of the things, and again, gender dynamics may come into play here, but as a female talking to a man, one of the things that I say is that I love it when you ask me if this restaurant is okay for me. And when men hear that you love it when they do something, guess what they're going to do? Exactly more of that. So if you just phrase it that way, like I love it when you read the ingredients 3 times, it makes me feel really, really safe. So I think that it's all about not what you say, but like how you say it.
Yeah. And I think even it applies the other way too. Like I look at my brother has multiple food allergies and he likes to eat in restaurants a lot. And his girlfriend has, like how you were saying, kind of the same attitude. Like she likes to find restaurants that he can eat at because like it makes her feel good to find stuff that they can do together. So I think it's like how you say it to your partner in a way that's like encouraging them to be supportive. I think that's really important. And I find like I sometimes, if I'm having like a bad anxiety day, maybe that's when I tend to be a bit more like tuned into the minutia of what's happening, and like maybe I start to become a bit controlling. But then I have to check myself and be like, okay, do I really need to comment on every single thing, like, or am I being over anxious? And it's like something that you have to, I think, learn to acknowledge within yourself, like, should I be worrying about this? Do I trust the person? Like, I think there's all these like internal questions that you have to ask yourself too. But yeah, like I totally, encouraging your partner to be supportive and like how you say it is so important.
Awesome. Thank you both. That was such great advice and tips. And we just breezed through an hour. So that went by so fast. I just want to let everyone on the call know before I just kind of wrap things up in a minute that Amanda did mention some resources. And just to let you know, Amanda, we had a few people chime in requesting them. So I just let everybody
Okay.
know that we will, when we send out this link of the recording to everyone, we'll also send those resources, and we'll also provide, again, both Amanda's contact information and Noreen. So I'm sure you can, follow up with them after this webinar. One last thing before I let everyone know, I just want to give a shout out to our Fair Patient Registry. I know these are extraordinary times and we are social distancing and canceling events, but as a community, we can still actively support each other, through research and through this registry. It's something that's all online, so you can do it at home. And joining and completing surveys, based on your child's food allergy experience. It's super easy and it's secure. And while the effort will certainly help researchers and it will have a positive impact, it may also turn into, an educational experience that helps pass the time. So give you something to do during quarantine. And again, lastly, just a huge thank you to all of our attendees for joining us today and asking such thoughtful and engaging questions. And then to you, Noreen, and you, Amanda, for just, again, sharing your amazing life experiences and stories. And I know it's going to help so many people as they navigate through, hiding their food allergy to, living confidently and feeling confident about it. So thank you both so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thanks, guys.